Hello everyone, my name is TheMadScorpyon and welcome to another reset update for the week of March the 25th. Now getting into it, there actually is quite a few things to go off in general, just off the top. First off, with our man Drifter in the back, there is a Gambit booster right now active for ranks and rewards, so if you wish to farm out some Gambit this week just to increase the rep gains, this is the time to do it. Otherwise, there is the last week of Guardian games for this year, so as usual, if you want any weapons to drop from it, any achievements, triumphs, or otherwise seals, armor, Eververse sets, anything, this is your last week, you can officially claim it. And at the same point, there is, of course, as well, an update that came out that Bungie mentioned with This Week in Destiny last week. Just to give a little bit of insight, I'll go over the full list in detail, but this is the one that would roll back a few cosmetics changes, change up some competitive rewards, and in other essences, just fix one or a few other odd things. And with that, there is also, in the Eververse, a delayed release of an armor set. As Bungie mentioned in Week 3 of Act 2, that Act 2 comes with a refresh at the Eververse. And this being the Stasis armor set that was mentioned some time ago. I'll put up a screenshot right here if I do still have a picture of it. But aside from that, we need to get into this week's Nightfall, which I gotta say, it is not so great of one if you're looking to farm out this week's weapon. So with this week's Nightfall, we do have Psyops Battlegrounds on the Moon. Now, with Psyops Battlegrounds of the Cosmodrome, that one was one that I would say is a little bit more difficult. Just thinking about the strike itself, I'd say this is slightly less difficult, considering the opening is just running back part of the Scarlet Keep, and then you do have to spend some time in one room, killing hive wizards, collecting their essence, and dunking them into certain areas. But after that, it is straight to the boss fight, and the boss fight itself is another Lightborn wizard. So with that, there is many random lightning strikes that comes down, and like I usually mention when it comes to Psyops Battlegrounds, once you get to certain points in the boss fight, you do have to stop and fight aspects of Savathûn, which, just to name a few things of theirs that, you know, one-shots you a Grandmaster level, there is the magic barrage of arc bolts, there is the random discharge lightning strikes that will hit you through buildings and rooftops, as well as the blade barrages, nova bombs, and just the fact that she is overall extremely tanky and you cannot progress until after dealing with her. There is a number of reasons why this Nightfall could be over in a moment. Aside from that, at the same time, if you manage to actually complete it for the weapon, it is currently the Slammer, which I would say is in an odd spot of being unique, but I wouldn't say worth grinding out. It is one of the few swords that can actually get Eager Edge outside of the 30th anniversary, and nifty perks like Sword Logic does keep it a little bit higher. Not to mention it is the big choppy sword that some people seem to love nowadays, but at the same time, there isn't much else to really vote for it. In the end of the day, it is a sword, and in scenarios where swords are the choices, usually other swords are better. But from that, we need to get into the Crucible. In regards to the PvP modes, right now there will be trials returning this weekend as there is nothing else to get in its way, as well as the fact that Supremacy of Guardian Games variety, this is the last week as usual to do it with Guardian Games ending next week, so if for some reason this is your favorite game mode during Crucible times of Guardian Games, this is the time to hammer it out because you won't be able to get it until next year's Guardian Games, and as I always say, there's no chance it always comes back because I think this is on the least or the lower half of popular events. Aside from that, in terms of the broad rotation, everything else, 3v3 quick play has survival, and in terms of 6v6, there is regular control as well as momentum control out there. And then there is the usual competitive playlist out there in Rumble for all of ye free-for-all fanatics. Then into the main featured rotations of the week. For our exotic mission, it is the Nord/Avalon mission, which is where you would earn the Vexcalibur Exotic Void Glaive, a handy one in case you're needing a little extra survivability and a regular glaive isn't enough for you. In addition to the overshields, a spread shot, as well as just the variety of extra perks you can get from its many catalysts, this is one I would definitely say is worth getting if you're looking for a glaive that is, like I said, a little bit better at surviving nowadays, especially with team building composition in mind. As well, there is the variety of Season Defiance weapons that came out with the Associate Season this previewed on, which if you don't remember, this was the season at the same time where Regnant became a shotgun grenade launcher with the massive crafting glitch that was happening. This was one of the many weapons featured, as well as just the rest of the variety being nifty. I wouldn't say top tier, but there are certainly some good options in the list of craftable weapons you can earn from Season of Defiance variety. In terms of our main activities, starting with the dungeons this week, we have Warlord's Ruin in the Grasp of Avarice. which both of these I'd say are good standing in terms of farming for two different reasons. In terms of the Warlord's Ruin, it's not exactly a difficult one for Artifice Armor, not to mention you can get some good weapons out of it, like the Indebted Kindness, and if you need to get the Buried Bloodlines Catalyst, this is the only way to access it. Not to mention that this is the only time Master Mode is available, so if you need anything else related to Master Mode triumphs in Warlord's Ruin, this is the time for that. But if you're looking at purely farming, I would certainly go with Grasp of Avarice, because while it is still moderately current, it's still not incredibly current. So compared to other master dungeons, this one is, I'd say, the easiest in terms of health pools and just, I'd say, simplicity. But at the same time, there is any Artifice Armor you can get from the boss, as well as any weapon that can drop, as well as some pretty nifty weapons for Crucible and PvE, like my ye old favorite Ias Luna that has been one of my best hand cannons for the longest time. But aside from that, getting into raids and, raids, there is two reprised raids with Crota's End and the Vault of Glass. Both of them are currently updated, both of them have master modes, all of them have craftable weapons, and all of them have a random drop exotic. Crota's End is a little bit different because you do have to just get the Oversoul Essence and, that 100 drop to complete the catalyst and everything, but I digress. There is still something to get from just farming out the final boss or random encounters, as well as red borders you can earn from all of them. Speaking of red borders though, there is a master mode for both of them that can drop Time Lost or Adept Weaponry for each area. Vault of Glass is a little bit different because it is one specific Adept weapon per encounter, and it is random Adept weapons from Crota's End. However, they are both current reprised raids that have the full variety of available challenge modes and everything else that you can go ahead and farm out. And speaking of challenge modes, with the featured armor, there's Salvation's Edge offering resilience-focused armor, Crota's End featuring strength-focused armor, and Vault of Glass featuring discipline-focused armor for random armor drops in those raids. But with our challenges for the week going bottom to top, Last Witch is the Witch, which that's still such a tongue twister. The Garden of Salvation is the Leftovers challenge. The Deepstone Crypt is the Core 4, aka Tanix challenge. Vault of Glass being featured, all challenges are active and infinitely farmable. The Valid Disciple is base information, which is, I believe, second encounter challenge. King's Fall is Devious Thievery, which I forget which one, I think that is War Priest challenge. The Root of Nightmares is Illuminated Torment, which is first encounter challenge. And Crota's End, once again being featured, means every challenge is active and infinitely farmable. Finishing off with Salvation's Edge being the Coordinated Efforts challenge. And with that, we go into our seasonal challenges for the week. Week 8, we rounded out with Act 2 with Part 3 of Rites of the Deep, which is basically just complete this weekly story. And good news being, we don't have to wait for more story quests for long, because Week 9 will likely have Act 3 Part 1. Next, though, we have the Heretical Arsenal for this week, which is defeating combatants with submachine gun final blows, bonus progress, and heresy activities. And this one rewards a Mirror Imagio, or Imago, however, Imagio, there's no I. Mirror Imago, I'm just going to say it as that, with the extra King's Fall origin trait. Then there's Heresy Chest for opening chests in episode Heresy activities, additional progress for opening chests after successfully completing encounters in the Nether, and defeating more challengers during the Court of Blades. Speaking of Court of Blades, there is Expert Court of Blades for defeating at least 5 challengers in the Court of Blades in a single run on Expert difficulty. Next is Heavy Slayer for defeating combatants with heavy weapons in Court of Blades. Bonus progress for spending stolen runes on the following purchases, and that is Ritual of the Deep and Ascendant Slayer. Then Rapid Court of Blades for rapidly defeating combatants in the Court of Blades activity, basically, and that's self-explanatory. And then you get a Curio of the 9 for that challenge. The Accommodation Appreciation for earning progress for giving accommodations in Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit activities, basic ritual activities. Taking all challenges for completing weekly playlist challenges, including Vanguard Ops, Crucible, Gambit, or seasonal activities. These are little extra tabs you'll note over and activities that would say like rewards powerful gear, rewards pinnacle gear, those sort of things. Then there's the High Value Hunter for Gambit, where you defeat powerful combatants in Gambit, earn bonus progress for high value targets. And lastly, the Meta Master, defeating combatants with fusion rifles, glaives, machine guns, strafe rifles, rocket launchers, and linear fusion rifles. Earn bonus progress for defeating Guardians in the Crucible. And now to wrap it up, all with the Eververse update. Now, before getting into it, I will preach as I always do when it comes to seasonal events. If there is anything in this tab, whether it be the event card, armor sets, holo chips, emotes, shaders, finishers, whatever that is pertaining to Guardian games, I would advise you get them while you can, because if they're not in the Bright Dust store, they won't be in the Bright Dust store, and you will just have to end up getting them for silver. Otherwise, they will not come back around until next year of Guardian games, and as I always say, if there is another year of Guardian games. That being said though, time to get into the featured list. I wanted to make a quick mention that the Stasis armor set is available once again. I believe I previewed this in the opening of the year, or opening of the episode, as it was mentioned this was coming, it just wasn't there yet. But now it is here for all respective classes. And again, I will have shown a picture, but this is the general theme when it comes to Titans, Hunters, and Warlocks, covered in Stasis Ice. Next, into our Bright Dust, we have Coronal Bloom, which I believe this is supposed to be the Titan Black and Red look for basic armor sets. Looks quite sharp on my Guardian. Then there is also the Fighting Colors, which I believe this is supposed to be the Warlock version of each. And this one is a live one. I do see a little bit of a gloopy effect on my shoulder pad right there, so there is that. Next is the Elemental Contestant entrance, which I don't know if this is Titan only or this shifts per character. But that is something to keep an eye out for otherwise. Next is the Petrified emote, which I believe is a new one, or at least a semi-recent one, which is the reverse of that one emote where you freeze and a Guardian tags you, but you know, you don't stay petrified for long. Next is the Just Juggling emote, which is one of my personal favorites for just blending in, vibing, and just existing in a space for just, you know, hanging out. Next, into our Bright Dust for our flares, Verdant Chrome, another one from the revelry of that 1 year we had it, which is just say green and goldish. Next is the Verdant Crown, which is a fairly similar but updated and brighter version of green and gold. Then the Rivalry White Sand, which I think has been featured for all 3 weeks of Guardian games officially, just another white with some dark black. Reef Maid, which is just reefish, a little bit of dark purple, light pink, or hot pinks in that. For our Transmats, the Cherry Blossom entrance, which is Guardian game specific, even though it is just a recolor of a blue rarity Transmat. The Cyber Class entrance, which is a respective version of every single Guardian class Transmat drop-in. And the Stalwart Sigil, which I believe this is also Titan specific, slightly different than that one Transmat I mentioned before, but not that much different. For our main Bright Dust items, we have the Applause and Accolades, which I believe is just you, well, something seems to be missing. I think there's there it is. You being Hunger Games through a chariot and variety. But then next is the Touchdown Dance, which I shouldn't have to explain it. It's basically you dancing like you just got a touchdown. But I don't know if this is a specific reference. As usual, any dances, I have no idea the exact reference. The Winged Victory is something I believe new to this year, which I will always warn, it does look like a pretty solid ship, but I will always warn when it comes to Guardian games, specific parts of it don't color. As you can see right here, the red, yellow, and blue of the Guardian games don't change while almost everything else does, and it sticks out like a quite sore thumb. Next is the Hawker Shell, which if you wanted your ghost to be a hot dog, or at least a hot dog vendor, this is certainly one for you. Next is the runner-up, a Sparrow, which I don't know if it's new or old because it kind of blends all together at once, but it definitely seems to be lagging behind on the previous, so I'll likely have shown it by now. And the class of its own, the emblem, or what's the word I'm looking for? The ornament for Vex Mytho class that I believe glows slightly different depending on who is holding the gun. Because as you can see right here, there is a yellow glow, which would be more Warlocks. And I forget if Warlocks won last year and that's why it's it, but at the same time, pretty solid looking ornament, although there is 1 or 2 other ones for Vex Mytho class that I would personally run over this, so you know, it's event themed if you wish to run it. And lastly, as always, the ghost projection that is available with every week that I would rather have it be another ornament. But with that, that is the end of this reset update. My name is TheMadScorpyon. I hope you enjoy it. Like I mentioned, with Guardian games ending next week, anything related to it, it will be disappearing at the end of this week. But if that is all you are here for, I appreciate the time you've given me. And I will now dart over to the, update patch notes in case you are looking forward to those to see exactly what was fixed. But in case this is where it ends, my name is TheMadScorpyon, and I thank you for watching. So, for Destiny 2 update 8.2.5.2, just to update off the start, Court of Blades, they fixed a potential soft lock when defeating a challenger at 0 seconds left on the countdown timer. For Revenant, they fixed an issue with Kel's Vengeance, where the Devouring Essence buff debuff could duplicate during the fight against Stolas. For Raids and Dungeons, they fixed an issue in Vesper's Host, where it was not featured in the weekly rotations. In Crucible, in the lockdown mode, they corrected an issue where the wrong VO was playing when rounds were won. Revives are now enabled in the mode. Heavy ammo spawns at 120 seconds instead of 60 seconds. Initial spawn points have been updated, and neutralizing a zone will be required to prevent a triple cap instead of just being on the zone. In competitive, they did some of these changes to points, gains, and losses in solo versus fireteam forgiveness. A lot of the stuff that I just glanced over because of specifics and don't really care about it officially. For armor, they changed the customization regarding the Hunter Astral Stasis Drake helmet, and the Mark of the Fallen Star ornament would improperly be shown. I think this one there's more to come officially for some of that, but however, into the legendaries, they fixed an issue where the Lotus Eater showed incorrect numbers on its kill tracker. They fixed an issue where Discord was not granting ammo to glaives that were active on projectile kills. Deterministic Chaos now has a fixed issue where anti-champion capability was misbehaving with anti-champ mods and Radiant. Thorn fixed an issue where Refined Soul buff was being removed upon stowing. For Power and Progression, it fixed an issue where the Master Spelunker objective stated that Vesper's Host and not Sunder Doctrine was required for Guardian rank 11. And lastly, the Frost Flower Sparrow will now properly appear in collections. And that is where this video officially ends, and I thank you for watching.